Welcome everybody, my name is Drew Schafering and we are here live in Brooklyn in the studio, and we are getting ready to work on this disconnected bob shape. And what I'm doing right now is I'm about to cut my first guide cut for the sectioning or for the shape itself. So if you're looking at it, you can tell what we've done is we've sectioned off the top of the head and really focusing on the actual round of the head. So if you look at the top section, it follows with the round curvature along the parietal ridge down through the occipital bone. And what we're doing is we're isolating that. This is all going to be longer, so we're working with an undercut. And we've isolated everything behind the ears with our crux clips, sectioning that away, and we're working on the front part in front of the ears to start. And this first section, what I've done is just taken this vertical section straight up, and this is where using a longer comb, so we're working with the crux tools today. And if you haven't had the chance to, go to Hairbrain Pro and try out the crux tools in the shop. They have everything there. So we're isolating and we're bringing everything square as if we were cutting a square layer, and what that's doing is it's going to be collapsing everything below the round of the head that we're working on a vertical section. So if we watch where we just cut, we're collapsing this and we're getting all of this below the round of the head to collapse and hug tight. So we just did our first vertical section, and we're going to keep working with parallel vertical sections. No over direction, just working it until we get to the front hairline. So again, for those of you joining in, welcome. My name is Drew Schafering, and I am an educator, hairstylist, artist here based in Brooklyn. And I'm also the creator of Crux brand. And this is a haircut that we're doing, or the haircut that we're doing today is something I actually learned a long time ago, several years ago, and it still stays relevant with today's fashion, with shapes, with principles on really releasing weight and collapsing weight where we need it and leaving length where we need it. So the general idea of what we're doing is we're really collapsing everything, and this is going to hang over. And this is going to be great for anybody who, if your client needs that weight reduction, or if they really have kind of that bowl shape. We've been seeing a lot of heavy rounded shapes lately. So this is kind of going anti-head shape. We're really eliminating the excess weight. And below the round of the head, it's very different cutting a square layer up here than above the round. We're isolating and we're eliminating all weight here. Above the round of the head, we're gonna build weight. So what we're gonna do, connecting two sides and making them balance is sometimes the hardest thing. So here's a little trick. We're gonna go to our first section. First, we're gonna see if this is short enough. And we're gonna take these layers. This is short enough, we're good. We're cutting inside out through here. So what that means is we're cutting the shape and texture first. The perimeter is gonna be the last thing that we cut. Good morning, Amy. Shantae, hello everybody. Thanks for coming in and tuning in and saying hello. I don't have a colleague with me today, so I'll be kind of jumping back and forth answering questions. So if you have a question, feel free to shout. But we're going lengthwise. We're about 4 inches on this. So what we can do is we can measure with our comb, then we're gonna come to the opposite side of the head. And we're gonna use that same measurement at the same elevation to cut a guide for the opposite side. So we're gonna do the exact same thing. So again, vertical section below the round of the head. The mani looks all cleaned up. Anna Maria, this mani's been through the works. She actually, even after a few shampoos, still smells. So my comb's vertical, and what I want to make sure is I'm just bringing and elevating this hair straight up. So from a profile or a straight on section, we're right here. I want to make sure I'm not out here. We're bringing it straight up. So we're cutting the top of this section, the shortest towards the top of the head, and we're just blunt cutting all that hair. Because it's going to fall at such an aggressive rate and it's going to collapse, it's going to be soft. We don't have to worry about texturizing any of that just yet. We're going to get into that. So I'm gonna keep working vertical parallel sections, traveling guide with me. My long comb helps. It allows me to control all of the hair as well as use it as a guide or a measurement for my line and knock all that hair off. So again, for those of you who maybe didn't hear, and I apologize, there's a little bit of noise next door. I'm in a studio space here in Brooklyn, and there's a woodworking shop next door. So sometimes they kick on the vacuums and the machines over there. So if you don't hear something or you need me to repeat it, don't hesitate. Give me a shout. All right. So if we take a look at where we're at, we see these layers are balanced. This is all going to be collapsed and hugging the head shape. Again, we're cutting shape and texture first. The perimeter is going to be the last thing that we cut. So we're now going to jump to the back of the head shape. So we've cut everything in front of the ears by bringing everything, and we're cutting a square line, everything brought straight up, cuts, and it gets dropped and collapsed. Straight up, collapse. Now we're going to be taking slight diagonal back sections with the round of the head, and we're going to be changing our cutting angle. Square horizontal up here to rounded. The reason for that is we want to get rid of a little bit of this extra weight. This is the densest, most bulky part of most haircuts, right? We want to leave the heaviness down here. We want to cut it. So we're going to cut rounded with the head shape and get rid of a lot of this bulk. So this is what it looks like. We're going to tilt her head forward. We're just going to use the guide from the front as the guide for length. So I'm elevating this straight up. You can see my rounded layers going to start coming here. We cut, redistribute, cut, and redistribute. So we're getting rid of much more bulk, and you can see as we comb that down, it's going to hug the head shape. So we're going to be taking all of this off. It's going to end up about chin length. Hello, India, Ireland. Wow, you guys are from everywhere. Was that? Hi, Bina. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy hump day. The week's going downhill from here. And if you're just joining and tuning in, we are using all Crux tools today. So we're working with L'Oreal Professional styling products, and we're using the Crux tools that Gerard and the team have over on the Hairbrain Pro shop. So hairbrain.pro, and they're having such great sales all month long. They have, I believe the combs and the clips start on the 8th. I don't know exactly what's on sale right now, but they have Black Friday sales all month long. So make sure to go over and pick up all your stuff that you need over there. Hello from Belgium, Sri Lanka, France, Vietnam. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are continuing this line back. So we're to this point. So let's get her up, right? So everything in front was cut here. Now, as we get into the back, we're taking slight diagonal pivoting sections, slight diagonal backs, bringing it up, and we're cutting a rounded shape so that we collapse more of this weight through here. And we're going to continue working until we cross the center back. Yeah, hello, Romania, Belgium, awesome. Thank you all so much for tuning in and checking it out. As I'm working, you'll see my handle and my social media information is just behind me if I'm not blocking it with my big head, as well as Crux Brand, the company that I have a passion project working for. And if you would like the head sheet for this, so if you'd like to get the actual detailed head sheet, trust me, you're gonna want it because there's a few little tricky parts that are like important with this. And this technique, this haircut can be done so many different ways. It's been something I continually bring out. And to give you reference, I learned this probably 7 years ago, and it still keeps coming back for me. So if you want the head sheet and all the details, go over to my Instagram, Drew Schafering, and just send me a direct message and just say head sheet, and I'll send you a picture of it. So we're continuing with a traveling guide, just working that nice round layer. And we're gonna go one more section over until we've already crossed center, so we're just gonna make sure that we get all this cut. Now notice I have her head tilted forward, so it makes my life easier. I don't want to be having to change my body and contort too much. Hello from Greece, from Bahrain, from Serbia. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank all of you for joining. So if we take a look at what's going on, we can see the shape starting to come out. It's starting to collapse and sit in. So as we flip and go to the opposite side, this is where there's going to be, each one of us has our own personal taste and our own preference with how we cut hair. We can continue working on this side, or you can stand in front, depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed. Some days it depends on our mood, and today I'm not sure what side I'm going to stand on. We'll see. But the key is consistency. So if I'm working here, I know that I have to get my arm up above. I'm going to tilt her head away, so it makes it easier for me to pull this section up through here. So I'm bringing my guide that's in front up through here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand on the opposite side, and here's why. It's much easier for me to cut from my guide, my shortest bit right here, and work in a rounded fashion, rounded layer that way. If I bring this section up, I can't tell what's going to be round by starting down here. So I'm going to switch. And now what I have to remember is that my last movement has to be a pushing motion away from me. Because this is a traveling guide, we're not working with any over direction or distribution to a stationary guide. So here's my guide from before in the front. And we're pushing so that it's staying where it's living in its natural fall. No over direction with our distribution. Next section. Long comb controls the hair. The rubberized crux clip keeps it nice and steady. Elevating this hair straight up. Our guide is right in our fingers right there. Okay, we're back. I think I had an issue with the connection. Hello from Norway. I got a brother and family that lives in Norway. They're in Oslo. I love Norway. Where are you, Marianne? Palm Springs, California. Dolores, I envy you right now. Here in Brooklyn, it's starting to get, today's sunny, but it's starting to get colder for sure. So last section, we're just taking and overlapping. And if we're doing everything consistent and balanced on both sides, we should end up equal with our lengths. We shouldn't have much crossover. Now the good news is that this haircut is going to be texturized and a lot of weight's going to be removed still. We still have to do a lot of work down through the bottom in addition to taking the perimeter off. How to cut a frizzy and curve hair. Nora, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Frizzy is a little bit challenging with styling, but the curve, I'm not sure. Anna Checky, how are you? It's good to see you. What's up, Timmy? Oslo, I love Oslo, Marianne. It's perfect. All right. So underside of the sectioning is cut. And to give us some idea, so, the why is always more important than exactly what we're doing. We are collapsing everything below the round of the head here. This is going to be a very sexy, movable bob shape. And we want to collapse everything through here. Then this is going to have kind of an overhang. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to pick up a little feather razor. So you can use a straight blade, you can use the razor with the handle, really whatever you like. And what I'm doing is I'm just using this as kind of a pencil. Instead of having the whole guard or the whole handle, it just using it just like a pencil, drawing it off. I'm making sure the hair is wet. Don't want to razor on super dry hair, right? And also I prepped the hair. One of my favorite products, guys. L'Oreal Professional Serum Expert 10-in-1. This is a great leave-in conditioner for hair, especially when we're using the razor. We really want to have that slip to the hair. All right. Hey, from South Africa. Stacy, thank you so much for joining. Love your support. Nice to see you, Aisha. All of you, thank you. All right, so we have these layers that are starting to come in, and this is all going to be collapsed. And we're going to start to take this and razor it away about chin length. And we're just gonna go flat and with a very open stroke, just start to melt all of this hair away. Now, if you wanted, we could do this with scissors on dry hair. I don't recommend doing it with a razor on dry hair, but some people, that's their, you're fine with that. Just got to make sure that the clients are coming back in for retouches, because we're going to get those little white crispy bulbs. Yes, Anna, though the 10-in-1 is great to use before any haircuts. It's really, it's one of my favorite products for sure. So just combing the hair in its natural fall. We're just starting to work the perimeter a little bit more. And the great thing about this is just because I'm using the blade, I can keep my comb and the blade in one hand, and I'm establishing kind of my visual guide for the perimeter. And then I'm just pinching and razoring that with a bit more of an open stroke. All right, so let's do the opposite side, and then we'll go on the inside and get some more texture going. Lynn, thank you for following. Hello, Emily from Belgium. I've never been to Belgium. I'd love to go there. So again, if you're just joining, thank you. My name is Drew Schafering, and we are working on a collapsed, disconnected undercut for a bob shape. And what we've done is we've cut everything below the round of the head to this point, in front of the ears, with a square horizontal cutting line, and everything behind the ears we cut more rounded so that we eliminated and cut away a lot more of the bulk in the back. So it's all bulk elimination right now. So moving the head around, we want to make sure that we get this perimeter nice and soft and just start to eliminate the length. And again, this isn't bob. We can have this be cut away because this isn't the bob shape. We still have that overhang. All of that length on top is going to be what's hanging. Jennifer, thank you. Appreciate you. All right. So now what we're going to do. This has all been cut. Now we're going to go through. So if we take a look at all of this, our cutting line was up here. Now it's dropping. So we have all of this excess bulk in through here. Depending on hair textures, you may want to cut more or less, but for today, we're going to go through with diagonal sections, and I'm just going to go through and really start to eliminate and piece out some of that weight. So using comb by Crux Brand, Hairbrain Pro's website, going in with the tip of the razor and just tipping a lot of that extra weight out. And the great part about this cut is it's supposed to be flirty and fun. There's supposed to be a lot of pieciness to it. So it has a lot more of an energy. There's a lot more openness. We're able to kind of get in there, be a little bit more free with it. You can see that's starting to come together really, really nicely. Hello from Greece. Red, thank you. Anna, can this technique work for any texture of hair? Yes, this technique can work for any texture of hair. The difference is I would maybe not use a razor in the same fashion. And here's the situation. If the hair's curly, what we're dealing with curly hair is we always are fighting for space, right? Curly hair needs room to expand. So we are collapsing and eliminating weight from the top of this section underneath the round of the head. And if, say, they have curly hair, we may adjust the lengths a little bit more or less, and we may use the razor, we may not. But that's a great question, and it can very well work on pretty much anything. So you can see I'm going in, and we're not cutting all of the hair that's in our hands. We're just really tipping a lot of the weight out, the excess bulk. So we're working with diagonal back sections as we do it. The reason for that is it's like a safety net for one. No mark, or even if there's a mistake that we make and we cut too much, nothing's going to end up leaving a mark in the hair. It's all going to be soft on a diagonal. Second reason is diagonals hug the head shape. Anything that's on a bias is like a rounded line, so it's giving us a softer, more curved effect to the haircut. We're going to keep going in through the back. And we're just going to go and soften a lot of this. And again, you can use a straight razor, whatever your preference. Today I'm using just the blade part and working it similar to the way a pencil would, just kind of a little bit more free. And for those of you that can hear, there's a little noise in the background, so if you need me to repeat anything, feel free. And then we have a lovely pooch in here Sunday, who my colleague Levi's dog is in here. So it's not me whining. There's a pretty little pup in here. All right, Red, thank you for that. Yep, love working with the razor. Yes, the razor is really, really great way to get that softness and everything that we need with that. So just kind of checking for balance. You know, we want it to be related, not twins. And when we're working with shapes that are more free like this, it's good to check in before we move too far forward. Just check in with it and see where we're at. All right, on to the top section. Never seen anyone use just the blade. I'm sure. You know what, Candace, it does. It feels like you're just kind of drawing. You know, it's just like a little detailer as opposed to the big length of it. I probably did that because I lost the blade part or the handle at one point and was just left with that. All right. So as we work into the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split the top through the radial section. And when you're working with clients, if you're doing this type of technique, what you can do is adjust the top section to be bigger or smaller, depending on if you want more hair in the top or more hair in the bottom. So the bigger the section, the more hair there will be there. So keep that in mind. We need the top section to be big enough to have enough hair to overhang. And you can already kind of see where this is going. So we're gonna comb all of this hair down in natural fall. And we're gonna split the back from the front. And we're gonna approach the back first. So again, if you would go give me a follow on Instagram or Facebook, I appreciate your support. My information's on the wall behind me. I'm a hairdresser. If we haven't had the chance to meet or converse, hairdresser based in Brooklyn, New York. Do a lot of education, a lot of different elements in the world, and I've started a passion project Crux brand, which I'm using the tools here today that you can find in Hairbrain's Pro Shop at Hairbrain Pro. So we're starting in the back half of the head. That's right, Courtney, less equipment for sure. All right, Romania, hello. So we're starting the back half of the head, and we're going to be elevating, taking horizontal sections, bringing it straight up, and we're gonna take every section. It's backwards on the wall. Oh, it is backwards, isn't it? I forgot that it does that. Well, take a screenshot and type it in backwards or something. Yeah, there you go. Things happen, right? So we're taking each section and we're elevating it to a stationary guide. So section 1's coming here, section 2 is up here. So what that's going to do is it's going to leave excess length falling through the base of the perimeter through here. So we're getting more softness and more layers. So let's start with our first horizontal. And we could do the top with a razor as well if we like. I'm just going to use scissors to start. So I'm using the long comb, controlling all of this hair. I'm bringing everything straight up, and I'm bringing it into my hands. Comb control with the hair, making a peace sign. For those of you who have maybe seen me work before, you know I'm a big fan of what's called the triple clamp. So what we'll do is we're gonna make a peace sign with the fingers or the hand that holds the hair. Fingers are tucked in. I'm gonna grab the hair with that peace sign, and I'm gonna use my ring finger to control it and provide another layer of tension on the hair. So I'm pushing it towards the radial, stationary guide. I take my peace sign, triple clamp it, so now I have extra tension through here, and I'm going to measure. I want the layers to start about the occipital. So there, we're right there in a good place. So next, to get the same effect as a razor, Let me drop her down a little bit for all of you. All right, so to get the same effect as the razor, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come through, open my shear, and slice through the ends of this hair. So we're not getting as clean of a line, getting a lot more texture just right from the bat. You can see how that produces that. In creating new haircuts, do you remember exactly what you've done? Especially if the client loves it, wants the same. Stacy, no. Sometimes yes, and most often no. But here's the fun part in that. We can usually find out, right? I think in the salon world, it's really important to have systems. And we have systems for how we cut lines, we have systems for how we create things. And so we rely on those systems, so we don't have to necessarily create the same haircut every time. But it's not always about creating a new haircut every time a client comes in. It's about being able to recognize maybe the angle that we held it at, or the little differences that we do in between each client that changes the cut. But that being said, it's not always about making, a new haircut, remembering the head sheet. All right. So everything was brought behind the head, everything was brought up, cut square. Now it's falling, so we can see all of this length is going to start to fall over. And we're going to be taking that off right through here. So those are the extra lengths of the tail, or you can keep the tail if that's up to you as well. Here in Belgium, we have to close the hairdressing salons for 6 weeks. I know, my heart's going out to everybody. I'm fearing that in New York, we're gonna have. All right, so my next section, now everything is brought back to that radial guide. So everything in front is brought to radial right here. That separation from front to back. Then the next section is gonna be brought back, next section and so forth. So what we're getting is an extreme buildup of length and weight towards the front. So we can use that back bit as a guide. Using my long comb, controlling all of the hair. Let me turn it forward so you can see. And my guide's starting to pop through, so I make my peace sign. And we're going to go through and cut that. So you should be able to see a lot of texture, a bit of texture in through there. And we're gonna go through and do more, but it's just to get the ball rolling. Get that texture started so that it gives us less work. And some of us tend to cut more straight lines and then go in and texturize it, which that's great too. I'm finding that I need every second is important. So minimizing the amount of extra work that we do can sometimes be really helpful. So bringing this back all the way stationary at the radial and slicing through this. And the last little bit. So if you are joining now and you're kind of seeing this starting to come to life, what we are doing is we've collapsed the underside of this shape. Everything below the horseshoe section was cut to collapse the weight. So everything in front of the in front of the ears, in front of the radial, was cut vertically, vertical sections, horizontal cut. Everything behind the radial was cut rounded to eliminate more hair. And you can see everything above was cut to really start to collapse it. So it was a stationary guide at the radial. Everything behind the back half of the head was brought forward. Everything in the front was brought back. Everything's falling that way. So now this is the point we're gonna get this dry in detail and finish it now. But just checking, making sure there's nothing else that we wanna do while it's wet. I'm choosing to do the rest dry because dry doesn't lie. The wet hair is gonna clump together and it might look thicker in certain spots. For me to get it dry and see the texture build and see the detail of it, that's gonna be really important. So we're gonna grab our dryer. We're gonna grab our Dyson dryer. I love the Dyson. We're gonna add a little bit more of L'Oreal Professional's 10-in-1. It's gonna add a little more weight to it to keep it nice and smooth and soft. And as we're drying it, I'm going to be using a vent brush, a Vest vent brush you can find on Hairbrain Pro. And I'm going to pretend like my hands are handcuffed together. So my brush is going to go, my blow dryer is going to follow. And I'm just going to be using the head shape, just working with it every direction, following, instead of keeping the heat in one spot and really just kind of beating the head. Nice and smooth, maximizing the amount of time that that air is on the hair. Never cut lines anymore, it's so much softer. Yeah, Red, it does help. What's the time you typically spend on a cut? You know, I find I'm spending more time on a haircut right now. Between the COVID restrictions and the guidelines of extra time, I think it's around an hour or so. And that's, you know, our clients want that extra time. They're not getting the same personal touch that they've had all year, or they haven't had it all year. So it's just a little bit less rushed and spending a little bit more quality time over quantity. So full air, full heat. I'm just going to let the vent brush, letting that air go through it. Everything going to one side of the head, and then we'll bring it back. So this is usually a part in the haircut where I have to stop and breathe and just relax a little bit. We tend to get so rushed with the blow dry that if we just breathe a little bit and slow our pace, the hair will actually dry faster because we're keeping it on this section of hair a little bit longer. You want to make sure to collapse all of this underneath in the nape. So for my clients, what I would do is I would encourage them to take note of how I'm drying it. And I would actually encourage them to clip all of this up to dry the underside. And that's gonna make it easier for them to come through and get this nice and sleek. Then drop the top. Same thing, just following the head shape, nice and slow. Hands are handcuffed together. And my favorite part about these type of haircuts is that you start to see the shape show up as it's drying. Earlier I said the term dry doesn't lie, and that's really what happens. You're starting to see it kind of come to life and take in the form of how it's going to be worn day to day. We want to make sure to get these front bits by the face nice and dry. Because we want to make sure that we take as much weight out of those as we need to. Round, bubbly shapes are the enemy of this type of cut. It's already going to get the roundness through the elevation of the layers and the lines. So just get it nice and sleek. Last little bit, we'll bring it all forward. So last little finishing touches. We could go through with a flat iron and smooth some of these out and really collapse it even more. But I'm liking it to have its natural roundness through the layering pattern and the head shape. So we're just gonna take our trusty mason and just collapse through the mid-lengths and ends a little bit. So you can see here underneath, we wanna make sure to get this a little sleeker, because this is going to push the shape out. So just showing our clients how to collapse that a little bit extra. Now we'll just take larger sections, and from the mid-lengths to the ends, we don't need to go into the root. Just get that nice and smooth. Last little bits in the back and we should be good. So again, if you have any questions on the technique to this point, if you have any questions on the technique to this point, or if you really enjoy having the head sheet so that you can understand it more, go over to my Instagram. It's written backwards for those of you that can read backwards on the wall behind me. That's my mistake. It's Drew Schafering, DREWSCHAEFERING. It should also be in the heading or the description of this video. And just send me a message and say head sheet, and I'll send you an image of it so you have it. All right, so here, dry doesn't lie. So now we can see the densities and everything that's in place. I'm gonna start in back. I'm gonna tilt the head forward, and I'm just gonna grab, pinch, and talk. So I'm gonna just pinch at the base and talk through so that I don't build up any weight. I don't wanna cut any heavy lines in this. I want everything to be cut from the inside out so it stays nice and soft. And we could go through, if you're a fan of cutting with a razor on dry hair, you could use that. That's not my style. So I'm just using my scissors and keeping my scissors parallel to the hair, and just keeping a very soft, delicate, fluid closing motion on it as we work through. And even as we point cut, going in vertically as opposed to horizontally so that we don't leave any marks. We want it to be nice and soft all the way around. So we're going to cut everything in the back half. So my thumb is not actually all the way in. It's just very on the outside, just nice and delicate, nice and soft. You use texturizing shears here at this point to start to get an even more diffused line. And now it's really about finding balance with the details. So again, just taking and pinching. And we don't have to cut every little piece. Sometimes those little extra bits that hang over are the cool factor to the cut. And they're hard to plan. So bringing this back. Diffuse any weight through there. All right, so now let's go to the sides. So if we think in terms of a traditional bob shape, we would want to bring all of this back and cut it to preserve that length through there. So if you want to fill that space in and have more of a traditional shape, then we would be using our over direction back and away to keep that. We could come through, use our long comb to establish our line, point cut. But again, for today, I'm just gonna be pinching and cutting. I want this to have a very, very soft feel, very unbalanced, but imperfect. So tilting the head away enables us to get on the skin so that we can see where the hair is laying so we're not having to guess. Pulling it back from the face, when hair moves before it's cut, it has to move after it's cut. So it's gonna fall forward again. And even when we point cut or when we're cleaning up these perimeters, we don't wanna go horizontally. We wanna come in vertically. We don't wanna cut any little marks that are gonna be out of suit. I want to stay consistent with a nice soft feel to it. All right, let's bring it to the front. Glamorous imperfections. Thank you, Jason. It's good to see you here, man. Thanks for supporting. Abby, beautiful job. I love every move. Very well. Thank you so much, Abby. Thank you for checking it out and for your words. You know, we all kind of have our own way of approaching haircuts, and I think it changes day to day. It's not always the same for myself. So we want this to be able to be kind of playful, softer. I don't want this to be too heavy in front, so I'm just gonna go in the inside. I'm not gonna take all the length out, but just remove some of that bulk. So one side it's removed. This is too much for me. So I'm going in, my still blade's parallel to the hair, and I'm just closing as I go through. Just kind of channeling and filtering out some of that weight. And we do the same thing on the opposite side. So that way she can wear this any side she wants, either direction. But we don't want it to be too avant-garde or crazy. We want it to be a little So last bit, let's get some more volume going. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, softness is the word for this haircut. Everything's cut at a higher elevation, and it gives this the whole feel to be consistent. Even when I'm going through here, I'm going to be cutting some of these shorter. Use my comb, my crux comb, as a reference for horizontal, but then I'm coming in and I'm staying very vertical, just taking some of that weight out so it sits nicely in the neck area. And you see, this still feels a little heavy to me, right back here. I want this to have a little more softness. So what we're gonna do, as we can see the roundness, the perimeter is great. In through here, we can see there's a little bit of extra weight. So I'm just gonna take the same horizontal sections that we cut it with. I'm gonna bring it back up to a stationary guide in the crown. Over direct it further towards the crown, so my shortest layers are at the crown area, right? I'm gonna come through and just point cut, maybe a little slicing. And what that's doing is it's giving us this volume here, and it's diffusing the weight line in the back at the occipital right there. So same thing here on the side. Let's do the same. So it was cut at the radial as a stationary guide. So we're doing the same thing back, bringing it, my combs finding my angle, fingers find my guide. Let's point cut a little bit. We can slice a little bit of that out too. And there we go. So this is such a fun haircut to do. It really is versatile. I'm finding that a lot of my clients are wanting to cut their hair off right now for two reasons. Number one, a lot of our clients want change, especially change with things that they can control. And in the world, when you can't control a lot, you can control your hair. So they're wanting to kind of do a little bit more change with that. The second thing is, it's about to be scarf season here in New York, right? A lot of scarves, a lot of high turtlenecks, a lot of hoods. So a lot of people are wanting to get that hair off their neck in that midst of change. So kind of cutting things away so that they can layer up is a big, big thing. Such a discipline not clipping the bits. Well, you know, I'm good at it today, Anna Maria. Good at it today. It's good to hear from you. Miss seeing you. Hope everything's going well for you. Just softening, just through some point cutting. So the whole idea is that these ends just kind of melt off into the skin. We don't want any lines or any harsh visual horizontal references. We just want it to kind of blend and melt in, kind of the way like charcoal drawing would, versus an ink line. And here we're just taking a little bit of this excess and point cutting. You know, here's the thing about point cutting. We want to cut on the way out. So something that I wish I learned sooner when I was in school, if you cut on the way in, you can make a harsher line and it's going to show up more. If you cut on the way out, you can actually never cut a line. So always cut on the way out and you'll get a softer result. All right, let's see. I have a mirror over here to my right, so I'm checking for balance with that. What's up, Joseph? How you doing, brother? I was actually just thinking about you. I was using one of your charcoal lines you used back in the day. Let's talk about charcoal drawings and razor cuts and all that stuff. So the cut's pretty much done. We're really just using the head shape to move it so that however they position it day to day, we want it to work no matter what direction they move their hair. Or yourself. Not so sure I knew exactly what you mean, Courtney, but I'm with you. Thanks, Joseph. How's PA treating you, man? If you're not already following Joseph, Joseph DiMaggio, great educator, very talented stylist. Go give him a follow, him and the Shokunin click. All right. So again, everybody, this is a haircut that I learned at least 7 or 8 years ago, and it still stays true and relevant to technique with what we're doing on our client's hair. And again, to kind of recap it a little bit, everything below the horseshoe round of the head, we elevated straight up and we cut horizontal, and that line falls and collapses really tighter to the head. So we're cutting the internal shape first, the the last thing that we cut. We cut everything in front of the radial as it lays, so 90 degrees out. So we elevate it up, cut, it collapsed. We did that in front. Behind the radial, we took slight diagonal sections. We curved it so that it hugs the head shape a little bit more. Did that until we crossed the center, then we repeated on the opposite side. In the top of the hair, or in the top of the round of the head, we started by separating the radial, and we took horizontal sections, starting in the crown, bringing it straight through. Let me find it front. We started bringing it up into the crown at the radial. So the radial is a stationary guide. Nothing's cut if it's not at the radial. Bring those up, and we cut them. The first layer we wanted to hit at the occipital. So cutting inside out, that length starts to drop. We get those dusty bits or those soft ends through the perimeter. Continue with horizontal sections back to the radial. Boom, 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 throwing more and more length to the front. After that, we really just blow dried it, keeping our hands nice and consistent, getting as much air and heat on the hair without burning them. Remember, smarter, not harder. And then going through and just detailing it. Hi, Afif. I wish I knew how to read that. And I wish I knew how to read that, but I like the rose. Thanks, Red. Appreciate you. So now she's pretty much done. And this is where, if she's my client, I'd be showing her my own little tips, the things that are my unfair advantages, right? So things that I have done or I've experienced backstage, styling-wise, different product choices. This is when not only our own way of styling the hair and doing the haircuts come into play, but our communication with our clients is so important right now. All day today, we've been using the Crux brand tools. So go over, if you haven't had the chance to use them, I'm the creator of Crux brand, started making tools that I found I couldn't find. The long comb is an essential for me. That's why it's named the Essential. And the clips are rubberized with a heat protective silicone grip so that we don't do any damage to the hair. Nice and streamlined so they're not bulky and they're not too big. They're all found at Hairbrain Pro in addition to the canvas rolls and all the other accessories that we have. Please, if you would, please go give me a follow on Instagram and Facebook as well as Crux brand. Would really love your support. Continuously trying to do stuff, bring more for everybody, both the industry and education. And if you would like the head sheet for today, please go give me send me a DM on Instagram and just say head sheet, and I will send you an image of the head sheet so that you have the full diagram of how to do everything today. Someone was asking what's the name of this cut. I'm telling you. Oh, thank you, Afif. I don't even know that. What did you tell her the name of the cut was? I don't even know if I knew. The name of the cut is a disconnected bob shape, disconnected undercut bob shape. Again, my name is Drew Schafering. Thank you so much for joining and tuning in. Please comment anything below with your questions. I will be following up and checking this regularly. Hit me in a DM if you like the head sheet. Go support myself and Crux brand on Instagram and social media. And then go to Hairbrain Pro for all of your tool needs, including the Crux brand combs and clips. Thanks guys so much for watching. Have a great night. I'll talk to you soon.